U.S., that's okay. Anyway, but welcome to my show. I'm really glad you're here because I have so many things I want to tell you. As you could see at the top of the show, I was practicing. So do you mind if I play this just one little section just one more time? And then I'm really happy to talk with you. Welcome to my world, the world of the piano. You know, I've been playing the piano my entire life. It's a huge part of who I am. I can't even imagine thinking about myself without thinking about the piano. It's inside of me, really. It feels very natural, like having brown hair. It just is. And I don't even marvel at being able to use 10 different fingers to push down 10 different keys all at the same time. When I teach piano lessons, I see my students struggling with the right hand doing this and the left hand doing that, and I think to myself, how did I learn how to do that? How did that become so easy? But it wasn't easy. For me, the road to mastering the piano was a long, bumpy ride through doubt, insecurity, and personal obstacles. I mean, it didn't start out that way, but it developed over the years as the stakes got higher and my goals more important. But throughout it all, I had this steely, velvety determination to play the piano and to perform for others, and I never gave up on it. When I was growing up, we had this beat-up old upright piano, and I would plug away at the keys. The next thing I know, I'm taking piano lessons. My first teacher had bright orange hair. She told my mom she used too much peroxide. She had this crazy metronome. I could still see it there, ticking away while I played my pieces. And then out of the blue, there'd be this ding! It just confused me. But I did learn the Cossack dance. Another teacher, Phyllis, and she taught me the C.P. Bach solfeggetto. I'm sorry. I get a little carried away with myself here. Because the whole point of the story is my journey to New York City and admittance to the Manhattan School of Music. Growing up, I didn't even know that New York existed. It just kept popping up. The first time was when I was 7 years old. My mom and I were in the waiting room at my pediatrician's office. Mommy, look at this magazine. Look at this pretty picture. Shh, be quiet while we wait for Dr. Smith. Okay. Goings on about town. Look, Mommy, it says opera, movies, theater. Look at all the names of these plays. Is this here in Pueblo? Is this here? Let me see. Oh, no. This isn't here. This is in New York City. New York City. The name had such a magical sound. New York City. I'm from Pueblo, Colorado. On the prairie at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. 100,000 people. Growing up, Pueblo was called the Pittsburgh of the West. But Colorado people called it the armpit of the West. Because the main industry was the steel mill, and the whole town reeked of it. And yet, there had been that mysterious New Yorker lying on the table in Dr. Smith's waiting room, beckoning me to New York. But getting back to that beat-up old upright piano, when listening to it became unbearable, my folks splurged and bought a new piano, a Chickering upright. My mom ordered it from back east, as we call it any place east of the Mississippi River, and she was so excited to get it. While it was being shipped to us, I remember my father teasing her as we drove along the Arkansas after an unusually heavy rain. Honey, look at that big box floating down the river. Do you think that's the piano you ordered? Wait, that's not even funny! My poor mom. Jesse and I snickered in the back seat. After the the Chickering had arrived after not floating down the Arkansas River, I would play my classical pieces on it, my solo pieces, and oftentimes I would make up stories. This one time, I put these large, pointy, sticky, brown tree seed husk things on the backs of my small fingernails and pretended I was the Empress of China, playing the piano with my long, elegant fingers and fancy nails. Then I would have to play with flat fingers. Oh, here. I'll play, you know what I'm talking about. I'll play Country Gardens from the John Thompson's the second grade book. All right, where it is? Country Gardens. Ah, here it is. C, flat fingers. As time went on, I added musical theater to my repertoire. One of my favorites was Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't know how to love him, what to do, how to use him. He's a man, he's just one man, and I've had so many men before. He's just one more. I don't think I quite understood. As time went on, I ultimately studied piano with Mr. Dehart. He was a good teacher, but he never taught me scales and arpeggios to help strengthen my technique. We never had recitals, and I never had to memorize my music. But what he did want was for me to practice fine-tuning small sections of my pieces. I just hated that. It was just such a bore. I just wanted to play through my pieces and not have to practice them. You know what that's like. Anyway, this one week, I was just so fed up with this practicing stuff that I spent the entire week just breezily playing through my pieces. At my lesson, Mr. Dehart beamed. Cynthia, you improved a lot this week. I took this as a sign. I could just glibly play through my pieces and not practice. Oh, what a relief. But at my next lesson, Mr. Dehart dejectedly looked at me and said, "Oh, Cynthia, what happened? You played so well last week." Oh, well. By the time I got to Centennial High School, music dominated my life. I had begun playing the cello in the school orchestra, and I accompanied and sang in the choir. And I was a member of Centennial's exclusive madrigal group, Centennial Singers. I sang alto. Our director was Mr. Butcher, and he was from England. He talked with a delightful British clip. I loved Centennial Singers, and the bonus was we got out of school a lot to perform for Chamber of Commerce and Rotary Club luncheons and dinners and all kinds of events in town. Now, I was a really good kid, so don't be too shocked, but I did occasionally smoke marijuana in high school. This one time, Centennial Singers had an evening performance, and all 5 of us altos decided it would be fun to get high. So there we were in our magical semicircle, the altos looking at each other in that knowing marijuana way. April is in my mistress' face. April is in my mistress' face. If Mr. Butcher had known, he would have been furious and so disappointed. He always encouraged us to get high on life. Music was my shining star. I was special because I was a musician. I played the piano. Not everyone could play the piano. Not everyone could accompany instrumentalists. Not everyone could sing a cappella in madrigal choir, but I could. I was a musician. Except I had a huge problem. See, the thing is, I've always believed I wasn't good enough and no one wanted to listen to me. I know, it sounds crazy, right? I mean, here I am, a musician, and I think, no. I know for a fact that no one truly wants to listen to me. And this belief sabotages me all the time and ultimately leads to struggles with memorization, and performance anxiety. I've oftentimes wondered where these doubts came from, and I think it has to do with my family's dynamics. You see, our family was divided into two groups. My mom, Jessie, and me in one group, and my dad, the musician, in the other. I mean, he loved us and cared about us, but he had his own musical demons to deal with. So in our house, music meant two things: joy and happiness, and alienation and sadness. My dad played the trombone. He loved big band and jazz. So while Jessie and I diligently practiced our classical music and played our flute and piano duets together, my dad was off doing his own thing. I don't ever remember him listening to us or encouraging us. We three never made music together. Years later, I heard a radio broadcast about the Carter family and how they would spend hours and hours playing together. I was shocked. It had never occurred to me that this was something a family would do. Make music together. I mean, in our family, my dad had his musical world and Jessie and I had ours, totally separate. And to make matters worse, the only pianist that my dad played with was this blind pianist, Leon Dudley. I mean, how could I compete with a blind pianist? Anyway, I didn't know how to play jazz and big band piano. No one taught me. No one ever asked me if I wanted to learn, and it was so off limits, I never even asked. So ultimately, my mom, the non-musician in the family, took over Jessie's and my musical educations. She found our teachers, bought us music, drove us to our lessons, made sure we practiced every day. She understood how important music was to us. But at the same time, she resented my father's music making and his lack of involvement in our family life. She so desperately wanted him to be in our world, and it just was not. And it was all music's fault. Music is what took our father away from us because he loved music and would do anything for it. But what I wanted, what I really needed, was my dad's musical approval. I mean, he was a musician in the family. I adored and idolized him and wanted to be exactly like him. So, if he didn't want to listen to me, no matter what my mom or my friends or my teachers said, I was not worth listening to. I knew I wasn't good enough. And these words became demons that continually sabotaged me. Despite my inner conflicts, I wanted to go to college as a piano major. I was accepted at the University of Denver Lamont School of Music. At DU, my piano teacher was Francisco Ibar. He was charming, charismatic, sophisticated, and from New York City. Mr. Ibar held monthly piano soirees in his home, where all of his students played for each other, and he regaled us with magical stories of the rich musical life of New York City and all of the famous pianists he knew. Last week when I was in New York, I ran into Rudolf Serkin at Pedelson's, and he asked me what tempo I take the slow movement of the Brahms F-sharp minor intermezzo. I told him, Rudolf Serkin? And what is Pedelson's? Oh, Cynthia! Pedelson's is just the most important music store in New York. It's right behind Carnegie Hall. You'll go there one day. Yes, I hope so. Yes, All of the famous musicians go to Paddleson's to shop and network whenever they are in New York. I had New York stars in my eyes, but at these soirees, I oftentimes had memory slips. It was terrifying. Mr. Ibar was such a passionate, inspiring teacher, and I absorbed his love of music and his storytelling like a sponge. At my lessons, though, we worked mostly on musicality in my pieces, and he never made me work on my scales and arpeggios, and he never made me learn how to memorize. He would just say, "Memorize your music," and that was it. I did, however, win the University of Denver annual concerto competition. But not everybody agreed with that decision. Believe it or not, I actually overheard two members of the piano faculty say, "Cynthia should never have won that competition. Her fingering is so haphazard, and she always has memory slips. And did you see, she used her music in the orchestra rehearsal? For goodness sakes, she should have that music memorized by now." I can't imagine what's going to happen in the concert. I was so full of doubt. But amazingly, I played the first movement of the Brahms D minor piano concerto with the orchestra without a hitch. The only place I wanted to go to graduate school was the Manhattan School of Music in New York City. It was Mr. Ibar's alma mater, and I wanted to study with his teacher, Dora Zaslavsky. He and I worked very hard putting my audition material together. One of the pieces was the Beethoven Piano Sonata, Opus 2, number 3. I auditioned. I didn't get in. Let me tell you about the audition. Even though my grandpa Shaw wanted Jessie and me to start an all-girl band in Pueblo, he and my grandmother Mimi paid for Jess and me to fly to New York for my audition. We arrived, having packed everything in the bright yellow Samsonite luggage Mimi had given me. Jess, here we are at the New York Sheraton. Oh, and look, there's Carnegie Hall, and is that Central Park? Wow, this is just a little much. I'm a little overwhelmed. I didn't expect that. Well, maybe we should just go up to our room and unpack, and then we can come down later and have some dinner in the hotel restaurant. Look at all those people walking down the street alone at nighttime. Aren't they scared? Did you think it'd be safe for us to go for a walk too? Jessie and I walked a whole terrifying block down 7th Avenue, where we found a huge candy store, lit up with bright fluorescent lights and lined with bins of multicolored candy. The jolly clerk who waited on us, whose hair stuck out all over the place, waited on us. And what would you young ladies like? We have black licorice, red and orange gumdrops, Hershey Kisses, anything your little hearts desire. Jessie and I bought some candy and scurried back to our hotel room. The next day was my audition for Manhattan School of Music. Mr. Ibar had arranged for me to practice the piano that morning at his mother-in-law's penthouse apartment on Central Park South. Jessie and I walked over there. Oh, Mrs. Flood, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for letting me use your piano. Wow, look at that view of Central Park. It just looks so huge from up here. I began playing through my memorized audition pieces. I hadn't practiced the piano for a couple of days, which suddenly felt like a lifetime ago, and the music seemed no longer in my head. I was in the big league now. I mean, today was my audition for the Manhattan School of Music, the most important music school in the world and where I wanted to be. I would be playing from memory and competing against talented pianists from all over the world. What if they didn't like me? What if I messed up? I suddenly got really scared and I couldn't concentrate and my hands began to tremble as I began to play the Beethoven. Jessie and I decided to walk to Manhattan School. On the map, it didn't look that far. We walked up Fifth Avenue. We left Mrs. Flugg's at 59th Street, Central Park South, which was 59th Street. We walked up Fifth Avenue. We crossed the park at 110th Street, and then continued up Broadway. What was I thinking? I mean, I had an audition. I had never walked that far in my life. By the time I got to Manhattan School, I was totally exhausted. I wearily trudged down on the stage of Manhattan's small Fort Miller Hall. Doris Zaslavsky and all the other teachers are sitting at a long table, eating Entenmann's pastries and chatting. I'm a wreck, and my mind is racing all over the place. I can barely see the keys. I play my Chopin Nocturne. Oh my God, I forgot to use the pedal. I've humiliated myself in front of all these important teachers. I mean, I forgot to use the pedal in the Chopin Nocturne, and I made so many mistakes, and I left out an entire section. I don't deserve to go to school here. What am I going to say to Mr. Ibar? I mean, we worked so hard for this audition. I mean, who wants to listen to that kind of playing? Nobody. The next day, Jessie and I decided to see a little bit of New York. We walked to Lincoln Center, and then we got on a bus and sat in the seats next to the driver. It felt safer there. Those seats are reserved for the elderly and handicapped. We didn't know. As the bus continued up Broadway, two old ladies, as we called them, got on and saw that the elderly seats were taken. They glared at us and then proceeded to sit nearby us and talk about us in loud, obnoxious voices. Look at those two goyles sitting in the elderly seats. Can't they see that seats are marked for the elderly and the handicapped? Those are our seats. They should be sitting in the back of the bus. Horrible! I have never met old ladies like that before in my life. Colorado old people are kind, warm, sweet grandparent types. Guess not in New York. Back in Pueblo after the audition was a long, torturous wait to see whether I was accepted in Manhattan School. In the mornings, I worked as a receptionist in a dentist's office, and then in the afternoons, I'd come home to a dark, empty house glumly practice the piano, and then sunbathe in the backyard while reading Peanuts comic books. And wait for the mailman. June was pretty grim. Finally, the mail came. I was devastated, but honestly, not surprised. So my mom and I made a plan. I would move to New York, study with Doris Zaslavsky, and audition again. I spent the rest of the summer in hope. Well, first, Mr. Ibar asked Dora whether she would take me on as a student, and she reluctantly agreed. So now I spent the rest of the summer in hope. I was going to New York City, and I was going to the Manhattan School of Music. Now, the year is 1977. You may not know or remember, but 77 was the summer of the New York City blackouts and riots, and the terror of the serial killer David Berkowitz, son of Sam. And yet, here I was, an innocent 22-year-old Colorado girl going to New York, and we didn't even question it. Finally, at the end of September, I flew to New York. My high school friend, Philip, who I had been casually dating that summer in Pueblo, met me at the airport. He was starting NYU Law School in the fall, and he said that I could stay with him and his roommates in their dorm suite until I found my own apartment. And he was doing everything possible to make that happen. Cynthia, look at that billboard up there. It looks like a Dr. Jones is advertising a room for rent in his Greenwich Village penthouse apartment. You should check it out. Hi, Dr. Jones, I'm Cynthia. I saw your billboard ad for the room for rent. Anyway, I'd love to live here. It's just beautiful. Yeah, I think it'd work out just fine. Oh, by the way, I'm not a doctor. My initials are DR. You're kind of cute, and I think this would work out nicely for you to stay in the spare room. I mean, I'm not in town much, but when I am, we can have a lot of fun together. Let me think about it. Phil was so surprised when I didn't take the room. Even though I explained to him DR's intentions, he thought that I should take advantage of the free love, anything goes attitude of New York. I felt like such a prude. I suddenly realized Philip probably wasn't my boyfriend. But I did find a room thanks to a housing flyer provided by the Manhattan School. Oh, here's one. The Parkside Evangeline Salvation Army for women. It's at Gramercy Park. Where's that? Oh, that's kind of far from Manhattan School. Oh, but they have practice rooms with pianos. This is perfect. I moved into a small, narrow room at the Parkside Evangeline. After I'm all settled in, I go to the main desk to ask about the practice rooms. Hi, I just moved in. Can you tell me where the practice rooms are? In the basement? Okay, great, thank you. Oh, here's a practice room. What does this other door say? The boiler room? Does that mean the furnace? Is this the furnace for the building? I opened up the door to the practice room. It was like a sweat lodge with a poor, pathetic, beat-up old upright piano. I mean, a couple of the keys were broken and the whole front had been ripped off, so you could see the hammers hitting the strings. In the corner, a small, sad-looking fan just lazily moved the heat around. Well, this isn't so bad. I can practice here. It'll be fine. Oh my god, this piano is so out of tune! I mean, how could it not be sitting in the room right next to the boiler? Oh, you poor piano. I can't do this. I decided to check out the second floor lounge. This is where the women residents are to entertain their male friends. No men allowed in the women's private quarters. And what do I find but a beautiful grand piano? I'll practice here. But, unbeknownst to me, the lounge piano is right over the Major's office. The Major is a Salvation Army officer who runs Parkside Evangeline. The next day he calls me in. Miss Shaw, have a seat. We are so happy to have you here. I hope you're enjoying the safety and comforts this residence provides for all of its women. That said, yesterday I heard some loud piano playing coming from the lounge upstairs. The staff tells me it's you. Is that true? Is it you? Yes. Oh, the lounge piano is so beautiful. And fortunately, I can practice during the day when no one else is using the lounge. It's perfect. Well, Miss Shaw, no, it's not perfect. You see, the lounge piano is right above my office, and I can't get any work done with all that racket going on. Perhaps you don't know, but we do have pianos in the basement. You're welcome to practice there anytime you want. But Major, the basement practice rooms are right next to the boiler. There's probably over 100 degrees in there. I couldn't practice but for more than a few minutes. I thought I was going to pass out. It was awful. The lounge pianos are so much better. Well, Miss Shaw, you either practice in the basement or you don't practice at all. I moved out. And anyway, I wanted to live on the Upper West Side where all the classical musicians lived. I rented a small studio apartment on West 75th Street. When I moved in, I had two of Mimi's bright yellow Samsonite suitcases. One contained clothing, and the other had two place settings of dishes, silverware, glasses, cups, and a whole bunch of pots and pans. Mrs. O'Neill, the Irish landlady, stopped by to welcome me to the building. "Oh, when's your furniture arriving?" "I don't really have any furniture." "Well, we can't have that, can we? Come with me to the basement. There's tons of furniture left behind by former tenants. Just borrow whatever you want and then just return everything when you move out." Great. The apartment had two windows. One faced a brick wall and was locked with a security gate for which there was no key. The other faced into my neighbor's kitchen window about 2 feet away. Two gay guys lived there, and they oftentimes ran around naked. Oh my God, would you guys put some clothes on? I had an apartment. Now I needed to get a piano. Phil and I went to a Lower East Side piano store where I found a huge, old, upright grand piano. It was tall and bulky and weighed a ton. I had it delivered and began practicing immediately. Hi, I'm Jim, your next door neighbor. You play the piano, huh? Yes, I do. I'm actually auditioning for graduate school at the Manhattan School of Music. I hope it doesn't bother you. Yes, it bothers me a lot. I'm a writer, and my desk is just on the other side of that wall. You need to get some carpeting. So I bought a cheap Oriental rug. This rug is so beautiful! And look, it's just the right size. Well, now all I have to do is move the piano onto the rug. Shouldn't be too difficult. Oh no, the piano is too heavy and the rug is too thick. I can't get it on. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? I know, maybe I'll call Phil. Maybe he can come up and help. Phil hopped on the subway and came right over. Wow, Cynthia, that rug really is beautiful. Stand back. I'll move the piano. Shouldn't be too difficult. Whoa, Cynthia, this piano really is heavy. I know. I tried moving it myself, but it was impossible. But what are we gonna do? I have an idea. What if we both get on either side of the piano and then we just pick it up and lift it? So Phil and I got on either side of the piano to lift it. 1, 2, 3, lift. I couldn't budge it, but Phil could, and whack! The piano fell over onto his lap. There it lay like a beached whale on top of the carpeting in the middle of my small studio apartment. Oh my God, what just happened? Well, at least the piano's on the rug. You knocked it over. Look at it, it can't stay there. Well, it's not my fault. You didn't lift. I couldn't lift, it was too heavy for me. And no matter how much we tried, we could not get that piano off the floor. It was there to stay. Finally fell in an idea. We just need some more people to help. I'll go down to the dorm and get some of the guys. An hour later, 6 first-year NYU law students trudged into my apartment. And 1, 2, 3, lift! The piano was on its feet and rolled onto the rug. It took about 10 seconds. Cynthia, I can still hear that piano in my apartment. I don't know what else I can do. We stared at each other. At an impasse. Finally, Jim said, "All right, wait. I have an idea. What if we had like this red light, green light system? That when you come home from work, if there's a green sticker on my door, it means you can practice. But if there's a red sticker on my door, it means I'm home writing and you can't practice." I couldn't believe this guy. No, I am not doing that red light, green light thing. That is ridiculous. But I did sell the huge, old, upright grand piano, rented a smaller, quieter spinet, reached an uneasy truce with Jim, and could finally practice in peace. Now on to lessons with Dora Zaslavsky. Dora had been teaching at the Manhattan School since the 1920s. She was old and short, plump. She had this white streak and otherwise badly dyed black hair. She kind of looked like a skunk. She wore these long, flowing, loose-fitting dresses that covered up her ample bosoms and fat stomach. She was cultured and sophisticated, but also arrogant and condescending. She kind of scared me. I played my Bach partita for her. No! The rhythm, she goes like this. You mean like this? Yes, like that. But with more passion, more drama. Every Wednesday night, all Dora's students gathered at her huge Central Park West apartment for dinner, and then we would all play for each other, vying for Dora's attention. Because everybody was just so amazing, but because my memorization and my technique were shaky, playing at Dora's was so nerve-wracking. But I did befriend a fellow pianist, Joyce. She was already studying at Manhattan School, and she knew all the gossip. "Oh, Cynthia, don't take Dora so seriously. She's just a pompous, pretentious old lady. She thinks she's so important. And honestly, all the other pianists are terrified of her too." Nonetheless, I always felt so inferior playing at Dora's. Finally, I had my second Manhattan School audition. It does not go well. I probably played worse than I did the first time. I look over at Dora, and she's scowling at me, so I know I am sunk. A few days later, I got the word. I was not accepted. "Cynthia, this is Dora. I want you to come see me Friday at 4 p.m. sharp. We have to talk." It was Christmas time, and I decided I wanted to do a little shopping at Macy's before the appointment. Now, Macy's is at 34th Street, and Dora lived at 90th Street. And for some reason, I took the slow-moving bus and was over an hour late. Dora was balancing her checkbook. Dora, I'm so sorry I'm late. Sit down. We have to talk about your audition in your future. As you know, once again you were not accepted into the Manhattan School of Music. Yes, I know, I got the notice a few days ago. This is a very embarrassing situation for me. And truthfully, I don't think you're a very good pianist. You always make such mistakes. Yeah. Perhaps you should become a secretary. Maybe not. You don't even have the right clothes to work in an office. I'm sorry. I can no longer help you. Well, I guess I should go. Well, thank you for being my teacher and helping me with my audition. I really learned a lot. Thank you. Bye. Once I was out on the street, I found a payphone and called Joyce. Are you kidding me? Ugh, she's so horrible. You should call the president of Manhattan School and ask him to recommend another teacher. Mr. Polizzi recommended I call Solomon Makovsky, but I decided to wait till after Christmas because I was going home to visit my family, and honestly, I just needed a break. Back in Pueblo, my mom sat me down for a heart-to-heart talk. Honey, I'm so sorry you didn't make it into Manhattan School the second time. Look, you've been in New York now for 3 months, and things just haven't worked out. I think it's time you move back to Pueblo. Move back home. I don't know. I guess you're right. I flew back to New York to pack up my things, return the borrowed furniture to Mrs. O'Neill, and leave for good. I walked into my studio apartment, closed the door and locked it. I just stood there, looking around in the dark. And all of a sudden it hit me. This was my apartment. This is where I lived. No one could come in here unless I invited them. I was home. I wasn't going home to Pueblo. I was home. Mommy, I'm not moving back to Pueblo. I'm staying in New York. But honey, we decided. No, Mommy, you decided. I love you. I immediately called Mr. Makovsky and set up a lesson. Cynthia. You're very musical, but your memorization is weak, and your technique is terrible. Do you even know your scales and arpeggios? Well, not really. Well, that's a little shocking. You need them to strengthen your technique. Your memorization needs help. Look, I'll take you on as a student only if you're willing to do the work. Yes, I am. So I started studying with Mr. Makovsky. To pay the bills, I got a job as a receptionist in an office. And yes, I did have the right clothes. I'd come home after work, have a quick dinner, and then begin practicing. Mr. Makovsky made me practice my scales and arpeggios. He made me learn how to memorize. He made me practice fine-tuning small sections of my pieces. He was unrelenting, but he believed in me. And his guidance calmed my self-sabotaging demons and lessened my performance anxiety. It paid off. I finally had my third audition for Manhattan School of Music. I got in! Dora Zaslavsky was was there, and I'm sure she was surprised. But I never knew because I never spoke to her again. Anyway, I was overjoyed. And to think of it, that mysterious New Yorker magazine from all those years ago pointed me in the right direction. The cultural wonders of New York and the joy of being admitted into the Manhattan School of Music. Maybe I was good enough. Maybe I was worth listening to.